call the meeting to order anyway. This is the City of Santa Barbara Airport Commission for May 17th, 2017. And we will begin with the roll call.
Karen Kahn,
Present.
Kirk Martin, Craig R. Curry, Carl Hopkins,
Here.
Dolores Johnson,
Here.
Bruce Miller,
Here.
Jim Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Chair Khan.
Okay. This is the time for public comment. Any member of the public may address the Airport Commission on any subject within the jurisdiction of the Commission that is not scheduled before them that same day. The total amount of time for public comments will be 15 minutes, and no individual speaker may speak for more than 2 minutes. And I do have one speaker slip. Looks like it is from Clint Orr.
Howdy folks, I'm Clint Orr. Hopefully you've done your homework and you know why I'm here. My plan is to put in a country western theme park across the street. I've been working on it for 4 years now. This is no whim. Actually, I've been working on it for 25 years, 4 years here in this county. So let's make that clear. I'm still working in other locations, but the theme park would have 8 participants. It will, unless you guys block it and say go away. We're going to have 8 participants. The California Country Dance Foundation is putting in the largest country dance hall on the west coast of the United States, where the theater was. So that would be a 45,000 square foot structure, just a tilt up with bathrooms, and it'd be have live bands 7 nights a week. So we're going to pull from Nashville and from Dallas and from New York, and we're going to cure your problems as far as inbound flights. The other participants in the entertainment mall will be the Guitar Center, Boot Barn, Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, the Penske Racing Arcade, and Wells Fargo. I know everybody hates Wells Fargo, and I'm sorry, and I'm not a Wells Fargo guy, okay? But they had the stagecoach through here in 1880, and you can't sit here and say they weren't here. So give me a break here. So Wells Fargo will be the naming, like the Staples Center. So we're gonna have. I'm bringing in Amtrak. So I'm working with Amtrak. I'm way ahead of you. You guys are like, what? We're going to put a Dodge dealership over there. No, you're not. I want a moratorium on the lots north of Hollister. And we're going to look at, I got an RFQ in front of you folks. So you guys know that I've done that. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't know what's going on. And that's fine. But anyway, read the RFQ.
We are limited to 2 minutes, so if you drop it up, that would be great.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we just sweep it under the rug. So it's not going away. It's going to be in the press tomorrow. We'll probably be on the front page. So you guys can't hide from this anymore. We're putting in the biggest country dance hall on the West Coast, along with an entertainment theme mall, instead of just putting in garbage over there. You guys are not very big thinkers, and the airport's bankrupt. Let's be honest. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speaker slips?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. That ends the public comment session. We'll move to the consent calendar. Do I hear any motion regarding the consent calendar?
I move that we approve the consent calendar, both the minutes and the property management report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent calendar is passed. And notices now that on Friday, May 12th, 2017 at 5 p.m., the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted the agenda on the bulletin board at the Airport Administration. That now brings us to our liaison reports. And I see Councilmember Michael T. Bennett from Goleta here.
No report.
No report. Okay, I do not see Frank Hotchkiss. Okay, which will move us on to administrative reports. Item number 5, fiscal year 2017 third quarter financial report.
Yes, Madam Chair. Tonight, Tom Bullers, our administrative analyst, will give you an update on our third quarter report.
Good evening, Airport Commissioners. Our fiscal year 2017 ends June 30th of 2017, so this is through the period ending March 31st, 2017. So just a few key indicators through those first 9 months of the fiscal year. Passengers are up about 9% versus last fiscal year, the same period. We saw strong April numbers, so through April that's actually up 9.5%. Through the first 9 months again, some increased landing and fuel flowage on the GA side. Parking revenues have been strong, up 12.5% versus last fiscal year. And the commercial airlines, with some of their upgauging, have seen some increased landing weights and fuel flowage and fuel sales. So just a few revenue highlights through the third quarter. Increased landing weights for the commercial airlines and the non-commercial aviation. And some limited commercial industrial vacancies. Since we're so close to the year end, a lot of these trends kind of continue into year end, so we expect that those limited vacancies will continue through the end of the year. Again, the landing weights and fees will continue. And in terms of some of our concessions at the terminal versus budget, parking has been strong. Rental cars were down a little bit, but they're up a little bit versus the same period last year, about 2%. So this is a chart of our revenues. You can see down here in the bottom corner, we're anticipating by year end being up about 2%. It's a little confusing. It's a negative number there, but that's a good thing in this case. About $310,000. And then just so you can see kind of where those revenues from the revenue highlights play out here, increased landing fees show up in the non-commercial aviation and the commercial aviation, so year end. We're projecting about a 4% increase on the non-commercial aviation and about a 3% increase versus budget on the commercial aviation side. Commercial industrial properties with limited vacancies, again, we're projecting about a 1% increase at year end, $4.5 million, so that's a really big revenue source for us. And then the terminal with the parking and rental cars and the restaurant concessions, we anticipate ending the year almost at $5.3 million, and that's about 1% up versus budget. On the expenditure side, through the third quarter and continuing into the year end, we've had a lot of vacancies across the department. Patrol, facilities maintenance, business and properties. We've also, the numbers look a little low in the third quarter because there's a lag between paying for some of our material supplies and services. For example, your water bill, you don't necessarily pay your March bill until the middle of April, so that gets evened out at the year end. At year end, we anticipate some actually utility savings in electric and water, replacing our parking revenue control system over at the terminal. That's about a $500,000 project. And then we budgeted for our grant match for runway 725, but we're going to carry that forward into next year to kind of smooth our grant contributions over 2 years, because we're going to be using 2 years of our AIP grant entitlements for the actual construction of that runway rehab. So on the expenditure side, the expense total, this is positive, but that's actually a good thing because that's about 3% under budget. And I'll point out right here, this is right now through the third quarter, about $1.1 million surplus. And then at year end, we anticipate about $728,000 in surplus. So again, to show you kind of where those expenditure highlights play out, this is our vacancy savings, about 9%, $550,000. The grant match and utility savings at year end show up here, almost $500,000, about 6% under budget. and then our $500,000 expenditure here in capital outlay transfers. So just a quick summary again, at third quarter, about a surplus of $1.1 million. Year end, about $700,000. So pretty strong financial condition so far. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? No, thank you for a very good, clear presentation, and congratulations to staff on doing so well. And that brings us to item number 6, which is the rental car concession agreements, lease agreements.
Yes, Madam Chair, as you know, the rental car agencies have an agreement with the airport, and we renegotiate that agreement generally every 5 years. And tonight, Deanna has successfully concluded negotiations, and she's going to give you a report on that process.
All righty. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, as Hazel said, rental car service. We're going to talk a little bit about our progress towards a new agreement with our rental car companies. First of all, it obviously is an expected customer amenity in an airport. It's an absolute necessity for us. But besides that, it's also a significant source of non-aeronautical revenue. So concessions, parking, and rental cars are really sort of the 3 main sources of non-aeronautical revenue in the terminal or associated with the terminal. And rental cars typically ends up in number 2 after parking. So in the last fiscal year, it was a revenue source of $1.9 million to the airport. So that's pretty significant for us. It's important for us. So currently on the airport in baggage claim, we have these rental car companies, Enterprise National, Alamo, Avis Budget, Hertz, and Hertz Advantage. Now that would seem to look like a lot of rental car companies. In reality, it's not so many, because there has been a significant amount of consolidation in the rental car industry over the last even 10 years or so. So Enterprise is actually the parent company for both Enterprise National and Alamo. Avis Budget are one company, and then Hertz and Hertz Advantage are one company. So it's fewer companies that we are actually negotiating with than you might suspect. So the compensation that we receive from rental car companies, it is a concession, so it sort of follows the model for a concession reimbursement to the airport. They do pay us a minimum annual guarantee, which means they pay us a certain amount of money at the beginning of every month, and it's based on historical payments to the airport in the past. It's basically sort of a cash flow mechanism for the airport, because later in the same month they will pay us a concession fee. So how it works is we have a minimum annual guarantee, and there's also a concession fee. And the rental car company will pay the larger of those 2 things, the minimum annual guarantee or the concession fee. So in the case of rental car companies, there's a very standard concession fee out in the industry. We, of course, look every time we go to renegotiate a contract, what is the predominant structure in the industry? Has it changed? And we found that it really hasn't since the last time we did this. So the concession fee for the rental car companies has been 10% of gross sales. So in other words, they pay us 10% of gross sales or the minimum annual guarantee, the larger of those 2. They also pay us for the parking spaces they have outside of baggage claim when you go to claim your rental car. And even when you return it, they pay us per parking space. So it's essentially a rental of those spaces. They also pay land rent for the quick turnaround facility that's north of Hollister. One thing that the rental car companies pay to us, but is a pass-through and not actually a charge on the rental car company, is what you know as the customer facility charge. And basically that is a pass-through charge that customers pay to help offset the investment in the QTA facility, or the quick turnaround facility. So at some point when that facility is paid off, that charge or fee to the customer goes away. And that's kind of important to note in this context, because that facility is actually getting close to being paid off. And we suspect that sometime in the term of this agreement, we will likely pay that facility off. So what that means is likely in the next agreement with the rental car companies, we will charge them in addition to land rent, also building rent. So this 5-year agreement has a option for an additional 5 years, a mutual option. So in other words, it's going to be essentially at our discretion whether we decide to continue it or not. And we'll see what the state of the market looks at that time. If we paid off the QTA as we anticipate, then it'll be obviously to our advantage to negotiate a new agreement. The concession fee, as I said before, is the same. It's 10%, very standard still for the agency, for the industry. However, we did manage to increase the fee for the ready return spaces. We had not increased the fee for those spaces for quite a number of years. They were paying $25 a month per space. Now we've managed to increase that to $35 a space, and then an incremental increase for every year of that agreement. And the land rent that they're paying is a market land rent, 16 cents per square foot, so that's a continuation more or less of the ongoing trend for that type of rental. So in a nutshell, it's pretty straightforward, although obviously negotiating with a multitude of companies at one time does have its challenges, but we think that we have a good agreement that everybody can be happy with and is a good, solid agreement for us. So any questions?
Any questions?
Well, I would make a motion that we recommend the city council approve the lease agreement.
Second.
Okay. Do I hear any discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The recommendation carries. And that brings us to item 7, which is the Surf Air Encompass Aviation at the Santa Barbara Airport.
Yes, Madam Chair, Surf Air, as you know, is a subtenant of Atlantic Aviation, and they've made some corporate changes, and I thought that it would be an item of interest for commission, and Deanna's going to give us a presentation on those changes.
All right, that's a good summary of what's going on at Surf Air. I'm sure most of us see their planes come and go during the course of the day, and they're a growing presence in Santa Barbara. So Surf Air's operations currently, they serve San Carlos, which is about 25 miles south of San Francisco, downtown San Francisco, smaller airport. They've been doing that since 2013 under an operating permit with the airport. As Hazel mentioned, they are based out of Atlantic Aviation, and they actually sublease a facility there, an office space, a reception space from Atlantic. They do serve now 13 California airports, so they have been quite expansive just in the last 3 years or so. They're a membership carrier, and then we explain that quite a bit, or quite often, that it is you purchase a membership with Surf Air, which allows you to fly with them at a certain degree of frequency, depending upon how much your membership costs you. So it's a little bit different of a model, but it's turned out to be a pretty popular model. And they fly under FAA Part 135, which is essentially a private charter or air taxi service. And the aircraft that we see come and go every day, they're 8-seat aircraft, so they're smaller, but they're usually filled, so they're doing something quite right. The changes that are happening, Surf Air is actually selling all of its assets to a company called Encompass Aviation. They are a Nevada-based limited liability company. They also have a Part 135 certificate. They will be transferring, Surf Air will be transferring all of their aircraft, their employees, everything will be going over to Encompass Aviation. And actually, Surf Air will be relinquishing their Part 135 certificate once that transition takes place. And of course, that leads to a new operating permit here at Santa Barbara Airport. The reason for doing this is they've been very successful, obviously, and there's potential for growth outside California. And as I'll show you in a minute, they're even growing some places outside of that. So Encompass Aviation has the ability for them to make that expansion. So the thing that won't change, though, is this Surf Air brand. We'll see those planes come and go just as we always do as Surf Air. There'll be no visible change to the customer. It's a brand name, so they will continue to use that. And they do plan, of course, to grow outside of California. And interestingly enough, we learned that they are now operating within Europe under the Surf Air brand. They're starting service. They started service here in 2017, so they're flying from places like London to Geneva and Zurich. So interesting how a California carrier can even have popularity outside of the United States. So we're pretty excited. to see what the next evolution of Surf Air is going to look like. And that's one of their aircraft, and they'll look exactly the same, but they'll be a growing company. So if you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
And that brings us to item 8, the director's report.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just a few items tonight for your attention. The first one's kind of a good news, bad news for us. Mindy is going to be leaving us. She's going to continue her career goals of getting new opportunities. So she's going to be going down to the Public Works Department and being an accounting assistant. So we're really pleased and happy for her, but we're sad to lose her. Her last day is going to be on the 26th of May. So I'm sure you'll send your well wishes along with us. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention is our annual budget presentation to City Council is scheduled for May 24th, and it's an unusual time. It's 9 a.m. It's a special meeting of council, so we will be first in line. It's usually the airport, waterfront, and wastewater, I think, is with us, or maybe it's recycling. I can't remember who. There's 3 of us, but we get to go first. As Tom mentioned in his presentation, our airline air traffic continues to grow. I'm just tickled about that. For the month of April, it was 13.7% above the same month this time last year. And year to date, from January through April, it's up 11.2%. So we're really pleased with that.
And the major upgrades from whatever they call it, the larger airplanes are not in effect yet, is that correct? Except American is, but the United ones are not?
That's correct.
They
This-
go in,
June 8, I believe it is. Is that right? 7 or 8, yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And that would be United going to San Francisco first thing and Denver first thing with large, I think they're going to start with the A319 and 20 and then eventually go to the 737-800 and 900 is what I understand. Big planes coming back to Santa Barbara.
Great.
Under the master plan, I know that we've been talking about the environmental document for some years now, but I'm told that the final document is just about ready to be compiled, and I think Andrew's going to schedule it for Planning Commission's review in July of this. So 2 months away. Hopefully that will go. The airfield electrical and safety project that we undertook this past year and a half, that has been completed as of June of it says June of 2017 it'll be completed. So we're just doing the final paperwork on that one. Our project to resurface the main commercial runway, I think we explained last time that the cost was around $7 million, and we have about $5 million, of which $500,000 is our grant match. But we're waiting on FAA for funding and really promoting and talking with them and showing them, demonstrating that we really do need discretionary money for that extra $2 million, because we'll have to do, if we don't get the $2 million, the project will be shortened on the runway, and because we're not sitting on $2 million to add into that. So more to come on that one. And with that, that completes my report, unless you have other questions.
Questions?
what's the status of the solar panels over the long-term parking lot?
Interesting that you ask. I'm going to have Jeff respond since he just had a meeting this afternoon.
We are at agreement, I believe, with the agreement. I gave you a presentation a few months ago. We did have a stall, kind of some concerns about the potential tax liability to the provider. So we had a meeting today, kind of worked through that with the tax assessor's office, and I think we have come to agreement and should be rescheduling with City Council so we can move forward.
Thank you.
I guess sort of on that topic, maybe staff could just bring us up to date on the plans for that parking lot, that location for anybody who might have noticed the condition of the pavement in there and how that's planned to be addressed.
So we have been planning this solar project for some time and delaying reslurring that parking lot in anticipation of construction of the solar facility. So what we're looking at now is having the solar facility constructed, then going through and reslurring the lot, striping the lot, and kind of bringing it back up to the condition it needs to be.
Thank you.
The budget presentation would be May 24th at 9 o'clock, will it?
Yes, sir, in City Council chambers.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Do we have any more questions? Any more comments? Well, I would like to say to Mindy, thank you so much for your service. We will miss you. We wish you well in your new endeavor.
Absolutely.
And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.